Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believing a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From beautiful Acapulco, Mexico in paradise here. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, former mayor of a California beach town and best-selling author, Debbie Peterson. And we're both in beautiful Acapulco, just enjoying the sunshine and what else are we enjoying, Debbie? Besides the sunshine.
The company.
Each other's company, yes.
and our hosts, yes.
And we are also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks, on 26 global audio and video platforms like iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio. Oh my gosh, I won't bore you with the list. It goes on and on. In fact, we are proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM, and #2 caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of the top 60, and #2 on caringvillage.com. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Carline Cadet Francios, she's French if you didn't know, the first generation businesswoman empowering aspiring individuals in their assisted living journey. As an experienced ALF, and I assume that stands for Assisted Living Facility owner and operator, she guides and supports clients in establishing thriving ventures. And this includes choosing and taking care of ALF staff, which are widely composed of caregivers, creating profitable and impactful environments, helping others achieve their goals, and making a positive difference. Before we get started, I do want to take this moment and thank my last week's guest, Melissa Bernstein. She has a lifelong passion for healthy cooking and eating for herself, her family, and her friends. And just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview along with all our other interviews, especially this one here, on our website, caregiverdave.com, or any of the other 26 global networks that I mentioned earlier. All right, enough of that. Carline, so great to have you on the Caregiver Dave show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. And I always like to ask my guests just who is Carline Cadet Francios, and why was she placed on this earth?
Yes. So my journey started when I had an itch for people. I'm one of those people that just love people. And looking back, I didn't realize that all the jobs that I've had, they were always some type of customer service jobs where I was in front of someone speaking or helping. I ended up serving at the Broward Sheriff's Office for about 10 years,
Wow.
10, almost 11 years. I was Sergeant Cadet Francois. I didn't have enough time for my little ones. So I decided that I needed to find something else that would give me a little bit more time to be mom in chief at the house. So that's how I ended up in the assisted living realm. And I love to serve. I'm a people person and it fits my personality. And ever since then, I've been enjoying it.
Wow, you and Debbie have a lot in common. You're both, at one point, public servants, right?
Mhm.
Debbie was a former mayor of a small beach town, and you were
Mhm.
also in government. So
Yes.
do you miss it? Do you miss it?
I miss it sometimes, but I enjoy the freedom that I have now. So I doubt that I will go back.
Debbie, do you miss it?
No. No, I'm glad I served my time.
Third my time. Got paroled. Well, listen.
Yeah, I'm on parole now.
So were you ever a unpaid caregiver, Carline?
Unpaid?
Yeah, a family caregiver caring for a grandmother or mother. Or...
Yes, for my grandmother. We teamed up, we helped my grandmother, and I think that's where the passion for assisted living was born.
So you're no stranger to caregiving. And What made you decide to want to go and open up a care facility?
So my grandmother ended up at an assisted living because we couldn't have the time, and we didn't, it was overwhelming at time to care for her.
I'm
And so
sure.
I figured I could play a role into the assisted living because I realized that it did help my grandmother. It helped us. It took the loads off of us, and it really helped the situation all in all. And so I'm very happy to be able to play a role to not only help our seniors these days, which I have a deep passion for our seniors because I do believe they paved this society that we live in today, and everything is so beautiful, so many opportunities. And I get to play a small share of giving back.
How
Well,
did your grandmother react? Was she, did she want to go into assisted living? How did that work?
She didn't want to. It was a lot of persuasion, a lot of visitation to make her feel comfortable, but eventually it played. It played out.
And what, she was happy in the end?
She was happy in the end.
Good. The reason I ask is because I have a mother-in-law and a mother, and my mother went in really happily, thrilled, so excited about it. It's like living in the Grand Hotel. We could come for dinner, and it was a huge load off her shoulders. And my mother-in-law did not want to go, and she was angry for a very long time. And then all of a sudden she realized, oh, this is so much fun. And
Yes.
saying to my mother, it was a time of her life. She really enjoyed it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think they get nervous to go, but once they get there and that nervousness is out the window, they realize there are loving people here. Everyone's here, wants to help. And then they realize the unknown is not so scary, and then they enjoy themselves.
it seems
Yeah,
like
so
you're
you do.
pretty.
I thought you might have. I wondered if what you can do to help people realize that it's going. I don't know if there's any way to make that transition easier, but you probably have some thoughts on it.
I do.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So it seems like you are a very brave woman because you just jumped from the caregiving role into, well, I think I'll open up a care facility or an independent living facility because, I mean, I put my grandmother in one. How hard could it be, right? What were you thinking? And is your grandmother in your facility or not?
Passing away. But yes, you're very right. I am very brave. I'm one of those people that think about what I want to do and see the difference that it can make both in my lives and other people's lives. And I jump head first and figure it out. I think the assisted living, well, a lot of people are intimidated by it because it's driven by policies and procedures, and there's a lot of paperwork involved in it. And fortunately for me, because I was already in an industry that is driven by policies and procedures, and the way that we do our jobs is driven by policies and procedure, for me, it was more of a smoother transition because I've had that background already. But yes, I knew that if I had to have another career, it was either going to be dealing with the children or dealing with the elderly, and I picked the elderly. I have children in my house. I'm enjoying them. So the next phase is to enjoy our elders and to give back to them.
So what was the timing? How long after your mother went into a facility did you open yours?
A few years,
Was
probably a good
was she
5
still
years.
alive? Was she still alive at that point when you opened yours?
No, she was not. She was
Okay.
not. She had already passed away for a few years. Yeah. So she ended up passing away, I want to say about a year after she went into assisted living.
Okay. Did you open your own from scratch or did you buy an existing one?
So I opened one from scratch.
Wow.
And
Very
I was
brave.
fortunate enough to have the funds.
Very brave.
It gets a little frustrating dealing with the contractors in the cities and all
Tell me
that
about
stuff,
it.
but
What city are you in? I'm just curious.
I am at the city of Fort Lauderdale in Broward County.
Well, it's a great place for
It's called
caregivers.
Everybody comes in retire down here.
Yes, great
And
retirement community.
I came to it from training as a certified nursing assistant when my parents got older and I wanted to know how to take care of them. So I worked in a care facility, but it was more a nursing home type facility than an assisted care facility. And a couple of things I'm curious about. How do you handle, obviously you don't have the nursing background, policies and procedures.
So I don't have the nursing background. However, part of our requirements is that we have a doctor which provides that nursing and that medical experience in the care for our patients. What they do is they come in at least twice a month. They also come in upon call. If the doctor cannot come, he sends his nurse, he sends his whoever he wants to send that would provide that care. That's how that works. So technically, I don't have to have that experience because I don't provide that care. All of that care, like the dietitian, the doctor, even people, the podiatrist that cut the toenails, for example, all these people come in to provide the care that our seniors need.
Wow,
That's good.
usually our shows are geared toward the unpaid family caregiver, but other caregivers, paid caregivers who work for themselves or work for agencies, listen to our show as well. And this specifically is a show for them because a lot of people don't think that paid caregivers are as dedicated to the job or get depressed if their loved one dies, but they actually do, don't they? They're very devoted.
They do. I can tell you from my experience, they do. And a lot of times our paid caregivers become a little bit more disgruntled because they are treated like crap. I get that a lot from feedbacks from people that calls me for jobs. I like to ask them why they want to leave, what's the reason, how long they've been here. And one of the reasons that they always want to leave, it's not because they want more pay, it's because of how they're treated. They're either overworked or they being treated disrespectfully. And they're very
your place is
passionate
different.
people.
How do you treat your people differently?
Of course. I make sure they feel appreciated. I make sure they feel that they are part of the team because I can preach that you're part of the team all day long. Until the minute you feel you're part of the team, I'm just spitting out air. So little things like, for example, I make sure I ask for feedbacks. If I'm doing something wrong, it's okay to tell me. If I said something, if I did something, give me feedbacks. Feedbacks giving is one of the biggest methods that I use to make sure my staff feel appreciated, along with other things that I can talk about if you would
Now,
like.
So what are those other things?
For example, we celebrate birthdays. We give gift cards, specific places for a massage, for example, because they work very hard. And if I know if I just give a Visa gift card to anything, it might go towards groceries and other things. Just a simple massage, a gift card to a specific massage place, it makes a huge difference. And giving feedbacks. Oftentimes feedbacks doesn't always have to be positive, but I find that we are so prone to give negative feedbacks because we want the behavior to change. But once the behavior becomes positive, we don't give feedbacks to say, I did notice that you changed X, Y, and Z, and I thank you for it, and I appreciate you for it.
Yeah.
And one of the notes that you had sent to Dave was that the effects, talk about the effects of scarcity mindset and how it affects behavior. And I'm curious about, what are you talking about?
Yes, I think sometimes we don't focus on the person's, we're not empathize enough because as a student from different backgrounds, and oftentimes we're not slowing down to realize this person have a reason why they did what they did, whether it's right or wrong. And instead of coming to say, oh, I need you to correct this right away. Slowing down and finding out why they did what they did helps everyone, because now you have an insight. Next time you have that same behavior, you have another insight as to how you can correct that behavior. Thank
So
you.
you don't run around saying, I'm too busy, I don't have time. You look at the benefit of chasing it up rather than just criticizing it.
Right. So, for example, I would say, I know that I explained for you to do this X, Y, and Z because policies and procedures says we have to do it. Why did you choose to do it differently? And oftentimes, for example, you'll find out, depending on how this person was raised, for example, given a full apple instead of a half apple, or a full banana instead of a half banana. Some people are raised because of their poverty level or how their backgrounds are structured, where they came from. To them, it's okay to do that. So now I learned this about this person. Now, next time, I'm going to slow down and say, I understand you may have been taught to do this X, Y, and Z, but it is so important, going back to what we talked about. If we don't do it this way, this is the troubles that we can get into, and it will affect both me, you, and the people that we care for. And almost 100%, the behavior corrects itself. And I didn't damage the way that they look at me. I didn't cause them to have, to become disgruntled. We just correct the behavior together, and everyone feel like they're part of the team.
Well, I've learned a lot from you right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so does that play into the cultural awareness in the workplace? Is that okay?
Yes, that definitely ties in together, because I think in the workplace, if we just focus on learning about each other, it's easier said than done. Sometimes all it takes is, as we walk into the lunchroom or outside on our break, have a little small conversation. Now you learn something about this person, and this person learns something about you. And collectively, as a leader, you have insider knowledge. For me, when I walk into a place and I see different people that looks different, I'm so excited because I get to slow down and learn something I didn't know before. And as a leader, I do believe we all have to find a way to learn, because if you don't know, you can't lead correctly.
And that is the real beauty of diversity. It's when, okay, we may be different in all kinds of ways, but it's when we start talking to one another and understanding why we're different, and we learn from each other. That's why it's important. Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Getting back to appreciation, you really have no control over how the loved ones, I'll call them, treat your caregivers, do you? Because many times they're unappreciated by the ones that they care for, and also to the staff. So you have control over how you guys treat your caregivers, but how about how the loved ones treat them? Is it typically good or bad or mixed?
It's a mix, and I do have control over that.
Really?
I don't have control about what someone do or say, but I do have control to get feedbacks from my staff and to go back to that person and kindly say, next time you come back, do you mind being kind to my staff? These are the reasons why it's important to be kind to each other, and why I appreciate next time you come by. And if you don't like something, unless your mom or your dad is in danger, I understand. We don't do danger here. I know my team and everyone do what they're supposed to do. Unless there's a big issue, please be kind to my staff, and you can always reach out to me. I'm always here to be the mediator and to make sure at the end of the day, I'm in charge. I'm responsible for everyone, the staff, the residents, everyone. And oftentimes I get a negative feedback myself, but I stand my ground and I let them know we're either going to do the right thing or we may not be able to do business together.
That's
and I
good,
find
because
that it works.
That's good because a lot of staff were afraid to discipline in quotes, the loved ones who are receiving the care, because they're afraid they'll lose them, or they'll complain to the ones at home, and they'll pull you out, and then you lose the money. But how would you generally discipline a problem loved one who is just not following the rules, and you've already given them the talk, and they're just ignoring you? What's next?
In that case, I would just give them an order. We can't do business together. It's usually 60 days in advance. But progressively, hopefully it never gets to that part. I've never
Good.
had to give that 60 days notice because of disrespectful and rudely behaviors. But
Good.
if it came to that, that's what I would do. Because honestly, I want to be able to know that my staff are they're sound, they're doing their job from a sound place, because when I turn around, I want to make sure my residents are being cared for. And if I have a specific family member that comes in and all they want to do is give trouble, first, I don't believe they really need our help, because if you really need the help, and if you're receiving the help, and unless it's a problem, if you're just coming in to pick on people, I will not tolerate that.
Yeah, like
I
the
have
grumpy
a
old
zero
man.
tolerance for that.
That's good. Your caregivers
have some-
know that you have their back, and that's very, very good.
Oh yeah, they do. Mm-hmm.
And they have yours. And it works, it's mutual, it can be mutual. One of the things that we used to say, and I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but often all it took was saying to a patient, or a guest or client, or however you call them, we would say, when you do that, it really hurts my feelings. And sometimes that was all it would take, is letting them know that what they were doing made us feel bad. And it would stop it.
Yes, we have one client, for example, that have moments, and then later on she'll come down and she'll apologize. So I will tolerate more of moments from my clients, because I know a lot of times they don't mean what they're doing. They don't fully understand the effect of it. A lot of it is just symptoms of what they're going through, and I can only imagine how they feel. So I'm more patient with that. And my staff are more patient with that. But for someone who should be in a sound place, or who don't need assisted living, I look at it differently, because I know we all have different things going on. Some people may have mental health issues. Some people may have had a very bad day. There's many reasons why. And some people are just straight rude and disrespectful individuals. And, there are many reasons why someone could be having a hard day, and they come in and they act a certain way. My approach is always to communicate about it. And I set my expectations. We all need money to live a good life, but some money is just not worth it.
So what about the problems in facilities with minorities? And do you have those same problems?
So in my facility, I have heard issues with minorities in the workplace. And part of the reasons I like to talk about it, because I want our caregivers to know that even though you may not work for me, I want to bring awareness to it, because assisted living is driven by minorities. The caregivers, people who are doing the care, who are providing the day-to-day. Majority of them are minorities. And oftentimes, I think it's that cultural awareness and being able to empathize with someone. But if we don't slow down to understand where this person is coming from, I think sometimes people in the workplace cause issues out of ignorance, because they refuse to slow down and get to know the people that you work with.
Right.
And, oftentimes they feel they are underappreciated, because they feel they don't have a voice, because no one takes the time to ask them, how you're doing, how is your day? And if they do come up with issues, a lot of the issues that they've mentioned that they come up with is scheduling issues. Oftentimes they have issues in their families. Trainings need to be done when it comes to the culture awareness in the workplace. We would think this is 2023 and we would all know, right? But that is far from the truth.
So do you have a multicultural staff, Filipino, Hispanic, Black, and, Latin America? I mean, is it pretty mixed up?
I don't, because I'm very small. I'm very small. And so, but I do bring the awareness to the people that I speak to when I'm represented somewhere, when I represent my facility. But if someone did apply for those positions, they would get them. But yes.
So you want to talk about emotional intelligence, self-discipline, and self-control?
Yes. I think it all ties down to it. I always assume that I don't know what's going on in someone's head. So it's probably because of my background, but I think another way to make sure that we give our best is to understand that different people operate from a different emotional space. And even though we may be old enough and should know better, a lot of people are not old enough emotionally. And so being emotionally aware, whether it's from a caregiver perspective or a leadership perspective or the family member that's coming in, plays a major role, because at the end of the day, you can quickly assess where that person is. And oftentimes, if you can quickly assess, you can choose to do or not to do something about it. But at least you know that you were able to assess the situation and realize, something is not right with this caregiver. Perhaps I should call someone else to replace her shift and let her know, hey, go home. You're still going to get paid. I know, some people might have to get the approval to do that, but at least you make sure you assess the situation and make the right choice. So being a voice to others, I like to say to our family members, if there's one listening, if you walk into an assisted living and you see that a supervisor is not treating a caregiver correctly, you can say something. You could either walk away to the caregiver and say, what was said to you was very sad and I'm sorry you had to hear that. That will make the caregiver feel, somewhat better, or let them know that someone actually cares. Now, to a caregiver or a family member comes in and it's either rude or disrespectful to you, you do have a voice. Bring it up to your supervisor. If your supervisor don't listen, bring it up to another staff who's probably more fierce than you are, that could bring it up, push it up even higher. But nonetheless, someone will help you find your voice. It's just that sometimes it's just taking the time to not just take it and to feel like if you're not strong enough to do something about it on your own, perhaps you can get with somebody else who's probably a little stronger than you are, that can push that issue up a little more than you can.
So maybe there's some crazy people out there who actually want to open their own assisted living facility. Can you give them a step-by-step guide so they don't make the same mistakes perhaps you made, and make it a little easier? Because we do know there's a shortage of all kinds of facilities. Shortage of caregivers, shortage of everything. It's the caregiver tsunami, I say, that's coming. Too many people from the baby boomer generation who are getting older, need care, and not enough people to support it. What do we do?
Yes. So what we do is we open good assistive livings.
The key word is good, yes. One that I wouldn't mind putting my cat in.
And so you actually have a guide for that? You have something that can help people do that?
Yes, I do. CarlineCadetFrancois.com. I have a free guide. It's a step-by-step on how to open an assisted living facility from scratch. Just go on there. Go ahead. Go on the
Oh, I just said,
website.
wow, from someone who did it. Yeah.
Yes, from someone who did it. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was worth it. CarlineCadetFrancois.com. Just put your name in your email. It would automatically download to your email. And I always preach for good assisted living. If a lot of our caregivers, they want to open assisted living.
Oh, really?
Yes. I spoke to some, a lot of them I come in contact with because they call me for a position. They look me online and they call me for a position. And I always ask, have you thought about opening your own? One of the biggest hurdle that they have is the fact that they don't have enough income. And I thought perhaps, why don't you, joint venture with somebody else? You bring your money together and you open an assisted living, and you too can work there, or you can hire people to work there, and you get to do things how you want to do things.
That's so
Hopefully
refreshing.
the right way.
So refreshing to hear you say that, because so many in this industry are like, us against them. I'm not going to help you because it might take away from me, and it might hurt me to help you as far as being in the business, in the industry. But in order to tell a caregiver that you should open a new facility, you might lose a caregiver that you could have hired and probably need, but yet you have a longer vision or longer term. Good for you.
Yes. So I think the way that we treat people, I think if you're someone who loses caregiver, you probably should be looking at yourself, because whether you empower that caregiver or not, the way you treat people will determine how long they hang around you.
That's
And
true.
I'm always into empowering others because someone did that to me. And that's why I'm able to be who I am today. So for me, it's not always about me. And I find that if I can help someone, I feel good. At the end of the day, I feel like, I put something good into the universe. And at some point, hopefully when I'm old and can't defend myself, it'll come back to me. And so that's how I look at it. I always look for ways to help someone else. And I think if we all could do that, life would be so much better, because $140 billion industry, that's the baby boomers that are going to be needing ALFs. There's enough for all of us to gain something and
That's
to
right.
win something and to feel good about ourselves.
And caregivers contact me all the time because they think I'm a placement agency. They're not sure what I do, but they said, I'm looking for a job. I just send them to care.com, which is a national placement center. But how do you find caregivers?
So with the way that I find caregivers, I start weirdly. I look at things differently, as you can probably assume. I go to the local churches. I meet with, some of the leaders there. Sometimes I meet some people right there on the spot, right after church. And I get to say, I'm looking for people for work. This is who I am. This is what I do. Give me a try. And if you like me, if you like my vibe, the way that I manage my facility, hang around. And oftentimes they do. Yes. So I needed some training myself to get into the business. So there's a lot of training involved. They need to be certified, and I help them with that. A lot of them don't have the license yet. All it takes is a home health aide or a CNA, certified nursing assistant, and that doesn't take long. But to open an assisted living, you need to have a license. The process is much longer and it's quite expensive depending on what size you want to open. This is the reason why I preach doing a joint venture where two people with a common goal get together and then they open a business together.
Debbie, you want to take that last question?
Yeah, I'm curious. So you do hire certified nursing assistants for what you're doing?
Yes.
Okay. And then how do you find, I guess this one is, well, staff and clients, then how do you get you've got staff, but what about clients?
So for clients, the same thing. I tell people what I do. I post pictures online, and I do work with some placement agents also. And they send me, it's all community networking, talking to people, which I enjoy doing anyway. And then they remember that nice lady, when their
Mhm.
mom need a place to go, they remember that lady that helped them. And over time, people get to know you, you get to know them, and they bring you people. They bring you, clients for your assisted living.
Okay, so a lot of family caregivers are watching, and now their loved one is keeping them up all night long because maybe they have bed sores, they need to be turned, and they just can't provide 24/7 care. And maybe they promised their father that they were going to, never put their loved one in a nursing home or a facility, quote unquote. But they need to do this or they're going to die or get very sick. So, how do they find a good facility? Because you keep saying good facility and not a bad facility, because the good facilities are few and far between of the bad facilities. Yes.
Yes, I've heard some horror stories. I always say, do a Google search, go physically and see what's going on.
Unannounced.
Most of the time, those appointments are scheduled unless you have a loved one there. So I don't want to mislead and say unannounced. You can show up unannounced once you have someone at the facility, but certainly you can try. You can try and show up unannounced and see what happens. Worst case
Oh,
scenario, they tell you need an appointment and they don't let you in, but
yeah, but at least you're there. You can look around, and I know when I was looking for my mother, I stopped in unannounced, and they said, "Well, you need an appointment." I said, "Okay, can I just kind of look around and see if it's worth coming back?" And they says, "Yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead." And you can do the smell test, right? See if it smells like a hospital or if it smells like a kitty litter box. You can
Mhm.
peek down the hallway, see if the wheelchairs are staring at blank walls and not having activities going, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I say definitely stop by and pay attention to your senses and look around. How do the caregiver look? How they feel? Do they seem like they cannot wait to run out of here and never come back? How
Are
does
they
the other,
smiling?
are they smiling? Do they seem like, they're being treated like crap? How does the other residents look? Do they seem, I've walked into some places where, if you walk in, pay attention to your senses because your senses will tell you a lot more than your eyes will. And pay attention if the place is organized, if everything is chaotic, boxes everywhere, something is not right.
Right.
So showing up and paying attention to what is going on, the caregiver and the other residents, and in your smell, you mentioned that, will give you a good sense of where you are.
Well, I can't believe how fast our time has gone today. Thanks so much for coming on the show. If people want to get a hold of you, ask you some questions, or maybe even put a loved one in your facility in Florida, how can they get a hold of you?
CarlineCadetFrancois.com. My information is on there. And if they want, to reach out to me or download the free guide, that information is there.
Mhm.
I'm also on all social media platform at Carline Cadet Francois, and I'd love to connect and learn more. I
Uh,
also have I also have a book on how to open an assisted living. It's on Amazon right now. And if
oh,
anybody wants, to learn how to do that, the book is on Amazon. It's how to open an assisted living from start to finish.
how many pages is that book?
I think it's like less than 300 pages.
Okay.
It's like two something. It's an easy read.
Debbie, how do people get a hold of you if they want to find out what you do?
Well, like Carline, I'm at my name, debbiepeterson.com, and I have a couple of books on Amazon as well on how to make sure that your city doesn't become corrupt like mine was. And if it does, how do you fix it? So you can get City Council 101 or go to my podcast at corruptionchronicles.com on YouTube.
And I'm at caregiverdave.com, and I have a Facebook page, 34,000 followers, Caregiver Dave. And you can visit me there and find out about my new book, Secrets from the Hammock, Uncommon Wisdom for Uncommon Times, available wherever books are sold. And if you click the like or follow button on whatever platform you happen to be watching or listening to this interview on, it will help us reach even more caregivers by something about Google's search engine algorithms, however that works. But thank you all to my listeners out there all over the world for tuning in every Wednesday and making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel, may God richly bless you all. Bye-bye.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.